Hello, this is Mark Holmes, the editorial director of Via Satellite, and we're back for another of our Thursday morning conversations. And we're doing something very special over the next few weeks. We're profiling companies that have made one of the most exclusive lists in satellite, Via Satellite's 10 hottest companies in satellite, which, believe it or not, is our most read story in Via Satellite and has been over the last 2 or 3 years. So, who do we have this time? We have a company that's made the list, Satixfy, who we know quite well. And joining me today, I'm delighted, is Yoel, the CEO of Satixfy. So let me say a big warm welcome, Yoel. And how are you doing? How are you doing today?
Thank you. We're doing great here. Thank you very much for the opportunity. I really appreciate it.
Well, we really appreciate having you. Before we talk a little bit about Satixfy, just tell us a little bit about life under lockdown there and how it's been for you over the last few months.
So I live in Israel, supposedly the most vaccinated country in the world. We had 0 cases until a few weeks ago, but they're actually running quickly now. So who knows what's going to happen and whether we're on the verge of another wave or not. But relatively Israel is open, it's like great, like all time. Now we'll see if it's going to change or not. So I think we're in good shape.
And how's it been with running a company? And I mean, obviously for all companies, it's been a challenge, people working from home and having to sort of change the way they work a little bit. What's it been like for Satixfy?
So it was very difficult because we're a hardware-based company. And as I used to tell many people, you cannot bring up a chip from home. You have to have a bunch of hardware, software, and VLSI people in the lab working together in order to get things done. So, we found it very difficult to maintain our productivity during the year of the COVID. I would just say that of all places, most of our employees worked most of the time, even during the COVID, the difficult waves of the COVID. In Israel, we had 50 to 75% of the employees in the office all the time. In the UK, we had, maybe up to 25 to 50% all the time. But starting 2021, we have almost all presence. We're back to normal. Productivity is again up to the limit, the area that we've expected it, and I hope that we will do very well. Our position on that is that most people need to be in the office, otherwise we cannot maintain what we want to do.
Okay. Tell us a little bit about it's been a busy year for you. I mean, you've had a number of announcements, number of deals you've announced with some of the, the likes of OneWeb and Telesat. And, how is sort of the business looking and sort of the demand for hardware right now?
So, we're in several markets, and each and every one of them is unique in its own. So, we're actually, today our big market is what we call terminals and gateways, where we're building, we're building the gateways for the Telesat system. We're actually building modem chips and cards for multiple players in the industry, and we're building antennas, electronically steered antennas, which are of different kind, all the way from low-cost IoT terminals through what we call comms on the move terminal, which are a little bit bigger, and we provide the full, connectivity end-to-end using our own waveforms, like an SCPC waveform on the hub side. So this is our terminal and gateway system that is actually most of our activities and most of our revenues. We have a lot of work going on the aero side. We're planning to become a prominent player in the aero connectivity with multi-beam electronically steered antennas when LEO's service is going to be operational, and that's the deal we announced with OneWeb on the aero side. And aero, I think, will be a very active market in the next few years because you will be able to get decent services in the planes with tens to hundreds of megabits per second, and the first one that would deliver a good and solid service would have a lot of market to get. We're also in the payload business. We're building payload chips and payloads. As we said, we're getting a significant amount of support from the UK government for the OneWeb Gen 2 system, and we're building a demonstrator for the OneWeb Gen 2 system that will be launched in the second half of 2022, which, if you like, will be a prototype for the next generation satellite. And on top of that, we work with other people on payload activity. We sell chips to people who are interested in buying our chips and integrate their own product. So we have a vibrant activity in multiple markets that we're selling product to. We actually see demand on all markets. I think we have, our main challenge is to execute on all the plans that we have, and because of that, we're not taking new programs beyond the one that we're on currently until we will be able to deliver on what we're committed to deliver on those programs, and those will enable us to grow very rapidly once we show and demonstrate what we need to provide.
Have you been sort of surprised in a way by the level of demand that we're sort of seeing? I mean,
No, because I think that if I would speak about it freely, I would say the electronically steered market, the antenna market, is still a dream. I mean, nobody has yet been able to demonstrate a solid, low-cost, mass-manufactured electronically steered antenna in quantities and at the price point that customers expect. I think we have a very good shot at that because, number one, we're the only guys who really can do multiple beams, multiple more than 2, maybe 8, 4, or whatever. And we support it with not just with our antenna chips, but with our modem chips as well. So I fully get it that if we will be able to deliver on that at the price point expected, then we're going to have a very big market. How quickly we can do that? We hope to be able to demonstrate a lot of our most interesting stuff in the next satellite show in September. So we'll be able to show multiple products working in multiple environments. And I'm not surprised by the demand. Same applies to the payload. I mean, I think that all the payload, at least the LEO payload market is all based on digital payload schemes, onboard processing, digital beamforming. SpaceX is doing it on its own. Amazon is doing it on its own. So other people who wants to get it, they need somebody to give it to them. I hope we will be that somebody. So in terms of the capabilities, we have it. And I think that the most unique thing about our technology is that it comes from our chips. And if you're successful in building a chip, then the product is easier, I don't want to say easy, and scalable. And then, building, for example, an antenna or a payload, it's just taking and putting silicon on PCBs, which is quite a challenge because those PCBs are complicated animals, but still, you don't have to do any magic, you don't need to do any science projects, it's all about regular silicon on a piece of printed circuit board.
Okay, and you mentioned the satellite show, and we're super excited to be having our satellite show in September. What are you most looking forward to sort of showcasing to the community at Satellite?
Okay, so we're actually, I really hope it will happen. I think as when I wrote my summary to the company on the last satellite show, I called it the last conference on Earth. And it really was. So now I should say the first conference in Earth, and maybe life will go back to normal. And I really look forward to meet all my colleagues and people I've not seen in a long period of time. What we're planning to show is actually everything we're talking about. I hope to show actual demonstration of our IoT and comms on the move products, both inside our booth and on cars outside, so people can drive and see how they work. If all goes well, we will be able to demonstrate also multiple beams and other features that we have in the product. And on top of that, we would show our payloads and all the rest of the technology that we're building and be able to talk about, we're going to have a big team and be able to talk about all our technology. That's what we're planning. I think we will be if all goes well, it will be an impressive step.
Yeah, I mean, we're obviously excited about it as well. Obviously, we haven't had a satellite show since the one last year, and it's going to be, I guess, about 18 months in between. Very rare to have a satellite show in sort of September, as well. And there's going to be lots of different talking points. I mean, I think since the last satellite show, we've had a lot of these LEO constellations announced, or much more discussion about them. It's a pretty exciting time to be involved in our industry right now. I imagine even from the hardware side, I imagine it's pretty challenging, but if you can get it right, it's a great time to be involved in this industry.
I have been in this industry for more than 40 years now. So I think I'm pretty familiar with that. I think I was there from the original satellite show. So I'm very familiar with what is going on in the market. And I absolutely fully agree with you that this is the most exciting time of the industry that I remember. Now, not all is true. Some is hype, and some expectations are not going to be met. But the amount of innovation and the amount of new things that are happening and the amount of constellations and the amount of things people want to do in satellite in general and in space is amazing. And we're like, giving people arms to do whatever they want. That's really what we do. I mean, we're providing chips, we're providing products, and we actually have a lot of discussion with people who want to do very strange things. Some makes a lot of sense, and some does not make sense to me at all. But I've decided that we're supposed to be helping everybody, and we don't know what will succeed and what will not succeed. So we're doing some things I'm totally against, but we're supporting them. That's really what we do.
I don't know if you can give us some more detail, but you said some strange things there. So I'm super curious as to is there anything that you can share with us in terms of some of these strange proposals that have been asked of you?
It's like, I give you one example of a topic which is very hot at this junction, and we're involved with some players. It's the possibility of doing satellites direct to cell phones. There's a few companies that are coming up with approaches of how to do that. Some of them are talking about satellite in the sky with 100 square meter antennas, kind of something nobody ever did before. It's going to be interesting to see if they can do it or not. And others are coming with different approaches in different and strange frequency bands, and the whole concept of, can you use a regular cell phone, or you need to have a special cell phone, and if the 5G needs to change the standard in order to support non-terrestrial network, or somebody can use the same, 5G native waveform. All those are things that we're actually involved in and looking into, both on the modem side and on the antenna side. And, some are really, really far-reaching, I would call them. And, some of them, I don't know if they work or not, but we would be happy to support them and see if they can get it to work or not. We'll do our part. That's what I can say.
You mentioned you've been in the industry like 40 years, and, that's a phenomenal time to, I guess, start in the early 80s, I guess you started in the industry.
Yes.
How would you sort of compare the industry then to what it is now? How do you sort of look at the journey that the industry has taken over the last 40 years?
It's no different than life as a whole. Everything is moving much, much, much quicker, and the cycles have become much shorter. And the expectation of people to get something done is in time frames which are a fraction of what then was very, aggressive. So today it's not, people are not even willing to listen to it and discuss about it, etc. I would say, though, that the most interesting element is the fact that just by being able to capitalize on the evolution of the technology in itself made a huge impact on the satellite industry. So, like a geo satellite is $300 million. That's, I guess, everybody knows about it. It's always been like that. And now there's a whole new list of companies, starting from startup companies, Astranis and such, to the bigger guys, Airbus, Thales, and all these guys that are talking about micro geo satellite that would cost a few tens of millions of dollars. And then you go and look at the LEO satellite. So there was a full generation of LEO satellite. I'm not talking about Iridium, which is a fascinating story by itself, but I'm talking about all the broadband LEOs that people talked about in the late 90s. And I'm trying to remember all the names of the company, that people tried to bring up then. And, then it just did not work because the economics was not there. But now people can build satellites. I mean, I heard that SpaceX is claiming that their satellite costs $300,000, complete satellite. So, it's not even $1 million. It's just, and the fact that they're doing it is because they're using just, regular components. They're not doing anything which is radiation hardened because they have so many satellites. So if something goes wrong, they just put another satellite in place. That puts a huge pressure on all the other guys to be able to do similar things. So now everybody expects satellites that are in the sub $1 million range. That's quite a challenge, building those satellites. And the biggest thing is driving the economics of the launch. It's like, now you can launch a satellite for a fraction of what you could do then before. Today, it's like the launch price went down by X order of magnitudes. And now with the new launchers, maybe it would go another direction. So everything is moving very quickly toward an improved size, weight, power, and cost. And that's really the most fascinating thing about it. And semiconductor is in the heart of it. Satellite was let's call it remote technology. I mean, rural, covering things that were not very interesting for all mankind. Like started from, international phone calls with echo canceling and things like that, developed into a delivery of television. And now people want to do everything over satellite. It's like connecting all the world through, very low-cost terminals. Let's see that coming. But the expectation from the industry is much, much bigger. The amount of money that is invested is orders of magnitude higher than any other period in the last 40 years. Many will fail. I'm absolutely sure about it. But that's how life is. I mean, of those failures, there will be another successes. And what people are claiming that they will be able to do is going to really change the world. And this is why I think it's the most fascinating period. And I'm really glad to be in that.
I know we're still glad to have you. But what's next for Satixfy? I mean, the company's been going around 8 years now.
10, actually 10.
Okay, and so what's the next stage? How do you see, say, over the next 3 or 4 years, the company's growth?
So number one, more of what we're doing. We need to build. We want to build terminals that will cost hundreds of dollars for use. That's a big challenge. Nobody has come even close to that. Nobody. We want to build payload that would be inexpensive and fully capable of delivering what we need to deliver. We are planning to start, really building our aero terminals in 3 years' time. We already have them designed and even tested, but now we have to put them on planes, certify them, make all the environmental testing, do test flights and everything else. That will take a while, so we have a long plan into doing that in the future. And then we have a new generation of chips that would be, actually, if you like to, if I can summarize my, goal, I would say, in the next several years is to build much more affordable payloads that are capable of having much more capacity with lower power, lower weight, and much easier to launch. And this will be done with a new generation of chips that would be much higher integrated using better silicon processes and much more expensive in terms of design or NRE. But in terms of the people who are using them, it would open the door for much, much more appealing applications for them. So that's what's in the pipe. I mean, I think we're on all the right places we need to be. We don't need to take upon ourselves more than we can, chew. And we need to start delivering on higher and higher scalability in those markets. That's really summarizes. I don't think we need to do anything new, from a different world or something like that. We just have to do good what we're saying.
No, we wish you luck with that. Now, with these Thursday morning conversations, we also like to ask some fun non-satellite questions as well, and we talk often about what music people like, what they've been watching, any movies. TV recommendations, what they like to do in their spare time. So when you're not thinking about designing this amazing hardware for satellites, what do you like to do in your spare time?
So I write. Actually, I write books about my company. So I already wrote 3 books in my life about companies I have built, which are supposed to be fun reading. As I used to say, I wrote it for my kids and my parents to understand what we did. So I was the founder of Gilat Satellite Network, and I wrote a book about Gilat that I actually sold successfully in Israel and gave to a lot of people, that is called A Gun in a Battle of Knives, which was actually the story of Gilat, I think, in terms of what we did achieve. And it was about when I started Gilat in 87 until I left it in 2003. And then I've written actually 2 books on my second company, which is called Raysat. One of them was dedicated to my wife, who works with me for 40 years now, and she actually did a lot of business in China. She sold in 2004 to 2011, she sold like $100 million worth of product in China by spending almost half of her time in China. Our kids were grown up, so she had all the time in the world to do that, and she was very successful doing that. And when I understood that this was like 10% of the high-tech export business of Israel in China, I decided that it's a good story that I need to write, and I wrote a book about it, which is only in Hebrew, so you can't read it, and it's based on the fact that nobody can read Hebrew and Chinese, so I can write whatever I like. If I write in English, people will know what I'm writing, so I didn't translate it to English. You need to learn Hebrew to read this book. And also I wrote another book about a company we did with AT&T when we did satellite TV. It's called Satellite TV on Wheels. And that was the story about a joint venture we did with AT&T to deliver satellite to cars in 2009, which is bad timing because the day after we launched our service, General Motors went bankrupt, and it was not a great timing at all. But the story is very interesting in itself. So I enjoy writing, and I write a lot to my employees. They're used to me coming back from a visit, an interesting visit, writing a story to all employees about what we did, who we met. And I used to say that my goal is not just to tell them what came out of the meeting, but get them into the conference room, have them participate in the discussion, feel like they're part of the happenings. And that's a very good way of getting them really engaged in what the company is doing. And since we meet a lot of interesting people in a lot of interesting industries, I think they really enjoy it. And that's what I like to do.
So you mentioned you wrote your book for your wife and your kids. Have your kids read your books? Do they like them? Are they?
Absolutely. I mean, I got very good feedback of them. Look, I mean, my son is 39, my daughter is 37, so they're not very young, and she's actually a professional writer, so, I get a lot of advice from her and feedback, which is sometimes a little bit inconvenient, but it's fine, that's how I like it. But, when I wrote my first book, they were 11 and 9, and they read it like 2-3 years later, and they're very excited about it. And I really wrote about them and the story about being a father to kids that you cannot really, see a lot because you're busy. I remember one of the nicest things, if you want one of the nicest stories, is I was writing about Gilat IPO when I worked with my son before I left for a 3 weeks roadshow. And he was 11, and I tried to explain to him what we're doing. And, this guy is 40 years old now. And I was trying to explain to him what we're doing and why we're doing it and why it's good for us and why we have enough money to do whatever we want. And he asked me a question which I remember until today. He says, but what's in it for you? I mean, I understand very well why it's good for the company, but why are you doing that? That was the first time that I understood that there's a distinction between myself and the company. Because, like for a founder and an entrepreneur, the company is like a family of first grade. It's like you treat it like your child or like your wife. And the fact that somebody looks at it and say, why are you doing this and how are you doing that? That was quite an experience to me. He said, don't go, stay with me. I don't care about this. You should just stay with me and don't go. Life is tough. And he read it and he was thrilled when he read that piece in the book.
So are you working on a book currently, or are you taking a writer's break at the moment?
I have a lot of material, but the answer is no. And the reason why not is because in order to write, it's like, I will write a book about Satixfy because it's probably the most fascinating company I have ever built. The problem is that before, you understand this business very well. Before you write the first sentence, you have to know the last sentence. Because you can't walk all the path and all the stories. You have to take a few main routes and walk them through the story. and you have to know how it ends before you can really start it. But I can tell you I have plenty of material. I have hundreds of pages written, submitted, available for the employees and everybody else. So that's what I do.
Well, we'll look forward to that. Well, Yoel, that's been absolutely fascinating. We really appreciate your time today. I just want to, on behalf of Via Satellite, congratulate you and everybody at Satixfy again for being one of Via Satellite's 10 hottest companies in satellite for 2021. It's a great list, and it really is one of our most eagerly anticipated features, and we're already having some great discussions, and companies already coming to me saying we want to be on it next year. So it's definitely been good. But so we appreciate your time, and yeah, we look forward to hopefully seeing you and everybody at Satellite. Look forward to seeing your new technology, and we wish you all the best for the rest of the year and beyond. So thank you very much.
Thank you very much.